You probably have a jar of garlic powder somewhere in your kitchen right now. Maybe it sits beside the salt. Maybe it hides behind the paprika. But at some point, you have shaken it over pasta, stirred it into soup, mixed it into a marinade, or rubbed it across meat before it hit the grill. It smells like garlic. It tastes like garlic. At least that is what your brain tells you. But here is the strange truth. Garlic powder does not really taste like fresh garlic. It cannot. The sharp, burning bite of raw garlic comes from a compound called allicin. But allicin is not stored inside a whole clove. It only appears when garlic is crushed, chopped, or smashed, and two separate substances suddenly collide. Inside every raw clove, there is alliin, a sulfur-based compound, and alliinase, the enzyme that transforms it. While the clove stays whole, they are kept apart. Nothing happens. But once the cell walls break, alliin meets alliinase. Within about 10 to 60 seconds, allicin forms. That is the unmistakable punch of real garlic. Now think about the powder in your jar. That reaction never fully happened. The enzyme was weakened and put to sleep during processing before it could do its job. So what you taste is not the living strike of fresh garlic. It is garlic after the explosion failed. A ghost of sulfur compounds. A flavor close enough that your brain accepts it, even when the chemistry says something else. And that jar has a longer story behind it. For much of American history, garlic was not treated as an everyday ingredient. It was often seen as too strong, too foreign, too rough for polite kitchens. Some old cookbooks told readers to rub a bowl with one clove, then throw the clove away. Using the whole bulb was considered excessive. Then American taste changed. Between 1980 and 2020, garlic consumption in the United States roughly tripled. Today, the average American eats about 2.5 pounds of garlic a year. Garlic moved from the edge of the kitchen to the center of it. Gilroy, California, became known as the garlic capital of the world. Its garlic festival began in 1979 and once drew around 100,000 visitors every summer. Christopher Ranch, based in Gilroy, became the largest garlic grower in the country. For a while, garlic in America meant California, but the supply chain shifted. In the early 1990s, Chinese garlic made up only about 2% of American garlic imports. By 2012, it made up roughly 66%. The garlic in your jar may have traveled thousands of miles before reaching your shelf. And somewhere along that trip, inside an industrial drying tunnel, the thing that made garlic truly sharp began to vanish. The process starts in the field. Garlic bulbs are harvested when the lower leaves begin to brown. Pull them too early and the cloves are small. Wait too long and the skins can split, exposing the bulb to damage and spoilage. After harvest, machines separate each bulb into individual cloves. The pressure must be strong enough to break the bulb apart, but gentle enough not to bruise the flesh. Then comes air peeling. Compressed air blasts away the papery skins in seconds. No knife, no hand peeling. Just quick bursts of air stripping the cloves clean. The peeled cloves are washed in tanks, where water and bubbles remove dirt and field debris. Then industrial blades slice them into thin, even pieces, usually about 2 to 3 millimeters thick. That uniformity matters. If slices dry unevenly, some can spoil while others become brittle. Then comes the step that changes everything. The sliced garlic enters a tunnel dryer. It moves along heated mesh belts while hot air circulates for hours. Temperatures usually sit around 60 to 70 degrees Celsius. During that time, moisture drops from roughly 65% to about 6 to 8%. The slices shrink, curl, and turn pale gold. This is the moment fresh garlic dies chemically. Alliinase is heat sensitive. At those temperatures, the enzyme is not always completely destroyed, but it becomes inactive. Its delicate protein structure bends out of shape. It is still present, but it can no longer work like it did in a raw clove. Alliin is still there too. Both parts of the garlic reaction remain inside the dried slice, but the enzyme has lost the strength to pull the pin. The grenade is still built, but it cannot explode. After drying, the slices must cool before grinding. If they are ground while warm, friction creates more heat and damages the remaining flavor compounds. Once cooled, the slices go into hammer mills, where they are smashed into powder. Vibrating sieves remove pieces that are too coarse. A tiny amount of silicon dioxide, less than 2%, may be added to stop clumping. What began as a living bulb has become something stable, convenient, and easy to store. It can sit in a pantry for months, but it can no longer behave like fresh garlic. So, what are you actually tasting? When allicin does not form properly, garlic takes a different chemical path. Its sulfur compounds break down into secondary compounds such as diallyl disulfide, diallyl trisulfide, and agewein. These still taste garlicky. They still remind your brain of garlic, but they are not allicin. They are softer, more stable, and less complex. That is why garlic powder works well in dry rubs, snack seasonings, spice blends, and slow-cooked dishes. It gives a steady background flavor. It spreads evenly. It does not burn as quickly as minced garlic in a hot pan, but it also lacks the sudden raw bite of fresh garlic. Even the supplement industry markets products around something called allicin potential, the allicin that could theoretically form under perfect conditions. But stomach acid can drop below a pH of 3, and at that acidity, the enzyme can shut down. Even capsules cannot always deliver what their labels suggest. The jar on your shelf is also a story of global trade. China produces more than 75% of the world garlic supply, over 23 million tons a year. In 1994, the United States placed an anti-dumping duty on fresh Chinese garlic. Because some producers did not participate in reviews, the rate eventually locked in at 376%. That tariff still affects the market. In 2024, a senator introduced the Sewage Garlic Imports Act, alleging that some Chinese garlic was grown in human waste and bleached for appearance. The bill gained no major support, but it showed how contested this supply chain had become. Importers have also been accused of using loopholes, including relabeling shipments or blending in small amounts of onion to change classification. So, that simple jar may have passed through a chain you cannot see or easily trace. But here's the part you can control. Take a spoonful of garlic powder and put it in a small dish. Add just enough water to make a paste. Then wait 60 seconds. Now, smell it again. That sharper edge begins to return. The drying process weakened the enzyme, but it did not always erase it completely. When water comes back, some of the damaged enzyme structure can partially recover. Alliin and alliinase meet again, and a small amount of allicin can begin to form. It will not taste exactly like fresh garlic. The reaction is only partial, but the difference is noticeable. The flat, dusty flavor becomes brighter. The powder gains a little bite. It starts to act more like garlic again. Garlic powder is not fake. It is not useless. It is simply a different ingredient from the fresh clove it came from. The same process that made it convenient also made it quieter. The same heat that made it shelf-stable took away part of its voice. The label says garlic. Your senses agree. But the chemistry tells a deeper story. So the next time you reach for that jar, remember what it lost in the factory. Remember what heat, time, and distance took away. And if you want to wake part of it back up, add water, wait 60 seconds, and let the ghost of garlic bite again.